They set up the poor waitress on a blind date as a joke, but what the single dad did left them frozen. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world are you tuning in from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. Jade Morrison stood in front of her bathroom mirror at 5:30 in the morning on December 15th, trying to convince herself that today would be different from every other day for the past 6 years. But the truth was she'd been a waitress at the Meridian in Charlotte for 3 years and a single mom for six. And those two facts defined pretty much her entire existence. Her daughter Sky was still asleep in the bedroom they shared in their tiny one-bedroom apartment. And Jade was getting ready for the early shift, trying not to think about the viral video from last week, where some celebrity had tipped her $500 and praised her service, and suddenly 2 million people knew her face. Here's the thing about going viral when you're barely surviving. It doesn't pay your rent or erase the fact that you're 31 years old, working the same job you had at 25. And yeah, the celebrity's tip helped, but it also made Jade feel exposed in a way she absolutely hated. Her coworker Marissa had been weird all week, kept bringing up dating and apps and how Jade deserved to find someone. And Jade kept shutting it down because who wants a broke waitress with a 6-year-old kid and student loan debt from a college degree she never finished? Across town in a massive mansion that looked like it belonged on a TV show, Vanessa Hartley was watching that same viral video for the 10th time with her friends Chelsea and Amber, and her face was twisted in this ugly way that didn't match her perfect Instagram influencer aesthetic. Jade Morrison, same pathetic girl from high school, getting more attention than my entire podcast? Vanessa's voice was sharp enough to cut glass, and Chelsea nodded along like she always did. She thinks she's special because one video went viral, like being a good waitress is some kind of talent. Vanessa had 400,000 Instagram followers and a lifestyle podcast called Real Talk with V, where she did what she called social experiments, but were really just cruel pranks on unsuspecting people, and she'd been the queen bee who'd made Jade's high school years absolutely miserable. Let's remind her who she really is. Let's teach her a lesson about her place. Vanessa said it like she was planning a party instead of someone's humiliation, and Amber shifted uncomfortably. Isn't that kind of harsh? But Chelsea was already pulling out her phone. What are you thinking? A fake date setup? We film it for the podcast? The plan came together fast and cruel. Hire a male model to pretend to match with Jade on a dating app, have him flirt and be charming, and then publicly reject her while they filmed the whole thing from a nearby table. And Vanessa paid Jade's coworker Marissa $500 to convince Jade to download the app and trust the process. 2 days later, Marissa cornered Jade during their break. You're 31, Sky's in first grade now. You deserve to have a life outside of work and parenting. Let me help you set up a dating profile. And Jade resisted hard. Nobody wants a single mom who smells like French fries and can barely pay her electric bill. But Marissa pushed and pushed with that $500 motivation, created a profile with Jade's real photos, then matched her with a fake account for a guy named James who seemed absolutely perfect in every text message that was actually Vanessa writing them. Jade found herself getting excited despite every instinct screaming this was too good to be true, and when she told 6-year-old Sky, Mama might have a friend coming to dinner tomorrow, her daughter's face lit up. A boyfriend? Will he be nice to you? The kids at school say everyone has a daddy except me, and Jade's heart shattered into a million pieces right there. Meanwhile, Owen Fletcher was in his architecture office arguing with his sister Lauren, who'd apparently made him a dating app profile without permission, and Owen was not having it. I don't have time for dating. I have a 7-year-old son and 3 major building projects and a business partner who needs constant handholding. But Lauren wasn't backing down. Tyler asked me last week if he'll ever have a mama, and it broke my heart. Just try one date. That's all I'm asking. Owen sighed because, yeah, his son asking about moms was his worst nightmare. The kid's biological mother had bailed when Tyler was 6 months old, and Owen had been solo parenting ever since. One date, then you leave me alone forever. December 16th hit, and Jade's hands wouldn't stop shaking while she changed out of her work uniform in the Meridian's bathroom, putting on the only nice dress she owned and trying to calm her racing heart. At a corner table, Vanessa and Chelsea and Amber were already set up with their phones ready to record. waiting for their hired model Derek to show up at 7 and start the show, except Derek texted at 7:05 saying, "I'm here at table 14." And Vanessa frantically typed back, "You're supposed to be at table 12," and realized with horror there'd been some kind of reservation mix-up. Owen walked in at 7:10 wearing a suit because he'd come straight from a client meeting, told the host he had a reservation, and got directed to table 12, where Jade was sitting looking terrified and beautiful, and nothing like the profile picture his sister had shown him. "Hi, are you here for the blind date thing?" Owen asked, and Jade nearly collapsed with relief. "Yes, oh, thank God. I thought I got stood up. I'm Jade." And Owen smiled. "Owen, really nice to meet you." And neither of them had any idea they were supposed to be meeting completely different people because a random app glitch had matched them for real. They started talking and it just clicked immediately. Jade mentioned she worked at this restaurant as a waitress and looked embarrassed. And Owen said, "Why would that matter? Honest work is honest work," with such genuine confusion that Jade felt tears coming. 30 minutes disappeared in what felt like 5 minutes, and when Jade said, "I should mention I have a 6-year-old daughter. If that's a deal breaker, I completely understand." Owen's whole face changed. "I have a 7-year-old son, Tyler. Single parenting is the hardest thing I've ever done." And they both just exhaled like they'd been holding their breath for years. From the corner table, Vanessa was watching this unfold with growing rage. "Who the hell is that? That's not Derek." And Chelsea zoomed in with her phone camera. "Oh my God, V, that's Owen Fletcher, your ex-fiancé Owen." And Vanessa went absolutely white because yeah, that was Owen, the man she'd cheated on and left 10 years ago when someone richer came along. She watched them laughing and connecting, and something vicious took over. "This is even better. We'll expose him as a player, save poor Jade from another mistake." And before Chelsea could stop her, Vanessa was walking toward table 12, with fake concern plastered across her face. "Owen Fletcher? Oh my God, what a small world." Vanessa's voice was sugar sweet, and Owen looked up and his expression went absolutely frozen. "Vanessa," just her name, flat and cold, and Vanessa turned to Jade with this patronizing smile. "Sweetie, I don't think you know who you're having dinner with. Owen's kind of a player. I'd hate to see you get hurt." Jade looked confused, and then her face changed when Vanessa said, "Wait, Jade Morrison? From high school? Oh, honey, it is you. I almost didn't recognize you." And Owen watched Jade's entire body language shift to fear, and he knew exactly what he was seeing. "Vanessa, walk away right now." Owen's voice was quiet, but it carried weight, and Vanessa kept going. "I'm just trying to help an old friend," loud enough that nearby tables were turning to watch. Owen stood up, and his voice cut through the restaurant like a knife. "You're trying to humiliate her. I know exactly what this is. You set up a fake date to embarrass her for your pathetic podcast, didn't you?" And he looked at the corner table where Chelsea and Amber were frozen with their phones out, and Vanessa's face went from smug to panicked in 2 seconds flat. "That's ridiculous. I'm just looking out for—" But Owen wasn't done, his voice loud enough now that the entire restaurant had gone silent. "Looking out for her? You bullied her in high school, and now you're still so threatened by her kindness that you have to tear her down for content?" Vanessa tried to interrupt, but Owen stepped closer, voice dropping to something deadly. "I saw you 2 weeks ago at the Ritz-Carlton bar with a man who wasn't your husband, Brett. You remember Brett, right? My business partner? The man you married for his money?" Vanessa literally froze, mouth open, face draining of all color, and Owen kept going. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk away, delete whatever footage your friends took, and leave Jade alone forever. Or I call Brett right now and tell him about your affair with your yoga instructor." The restaurant was dead silent, every single person watching this unfold like it was a movie, and Owen's final line hit like a bomb. "And before you even think about threatening me, remember that Brett and I have a $40 million project starting in January. I can destroy your perfect influencer life with one phone call." Vanessa backed away like she'd been slapped, stumbled toward her table where Chelsea and Amber were already deleting videos with shaking hands, and all three of them practically ran out of the restaurant without saying another word. Owen sat back down and the restaurant slowly started breathing again, and Jade was staring at him with tears streaming down her face. You didn't have to do that. Now you've made a powerful enemy. But Owen shook his head. She's been my enemy for 10 years. Watching her try to do to you what she did to me. Not happening. Not ever. And Jade whispered, why would you protect me? You don't even know me. And Owen took her hand across the table. Because nobody deserves to be someone's punchline. And Jade, this might sound crazy, but I'd really like to finish this date if you're still willing. Jade woke up the next morning convinced the entire night had been some kind of fever dream. But then Sky bounced onto her bed asking, Mama, you're smiling. You never smile like that in the morning. Was your friend nice? And Jade realized it was real. All of it was real, including the part where a man she just met had basically blown up his business relationship to protect her from high school bullies. Her phone buzzed with a text from Owen that made her heart do something complicated. Good morning. I know this is probably moving fast, but I'd really like to see you again. Maybe with the kids this time? Tyler's been asking about the lady from dinner. She was still staring at that text trying to figure out how to respond when her coworker Marissa cornered her in the break room at work, looking like she'd been crying all night. I need to tell you something and you're going to hate me, but I can't keep lying to you. And Marissa's voice was shaking so hard she could barely get the words out. Vanessa paid me $500 to set you up on that dating app. The whole thing was supposed to be a prank. They were going to film a guy humiliating you for her podcast. Jade felt the room tilt sideways. You sold me out for $500? You let them set me up to be publicly embarrassed for content? Marissa was full on sobbing now. My mom's medical bills are crushing me. I needed the money. I didn't think it would turn out like this. I didn't know that guy would show up and defend you. Jade's mind was racing because if Marissa set up a fake profile, then Owen wasn't supposed to be there at all. So the match with Owen was what? A mistake? And Marissa nodded. There must have been an app glitch. You were supposed to match with a fake account. Instead, you matched with him for real. Like the universe just said nope and gave you something better. Across town in her massive mansion, Vanessa was having a complete meltdown, throwing her phone across her bedroom because Owen had texted her saying, delete every piece of footage or I tell Brett everything. You have 24 hours. Her husband Brett was on a business trip and had no idea about the restaurant disaster. And Chelsea and Amber had already distanced themselves, texting things like, that went way too far, V. We can't be part of this anymore. Vanessa's podcast followers were asking about the social experiment she teased for this week's episode, but she couldn't post it without exposing herself as a cruel, manipulative person who sets up humiliation pranks. And her perfect influencer life was crumbling in real time. 3 days later, Owen picked up Jade and Sky for a trip to the Children's Museum. And the second Tyler and Sky met, they did that thing little kids do where they're shy for exactly 30 seconds before becoming best friends. You like dinosaurs? Tyler asked very seriously, and Sky nodded. I like drawing them. And Tyler's face lit up. Want to see the fossil exhibit? They have a T-Rex that's taller than my dad. And the kids ran off together, leaving Owen and Jade to follow behind, trying not to cry at how easy this felt. I need to tell you something, Jade said while they watched the kids press their faces against the dinosaur display. My coworker told me the whole date was a setup. Vanessa paid her to create a fake profile to humiliate me. You weren't even supposed to be there. Owen nodded like he'd already figured that out. I know, but here's the thing. Somehow you and I matched for real. The app glitched, or the universe intervened, or whatever you want to call it, which means maybe we were supposed to meet, just not the way they planned. Jade felt tears coming, because nobody had ever made her feel like she was worth choosing before. You still want to see me even knowing it started as a cruel joke? The best things in my life started by accident, Owen said, and his voice was so genuine it hurt. Tyler wasn't planned. My architecture firm started as a side project. Maybe you and I are another happy accident that turned into something real. A week later, they were having coffee while the kids had a play date, and Owen asked if he could see her architecture sketches, and Jade pulled out this beat-up notebook looking embarrassed. They're just doodles from my breaks at work, nothing professional. But when Owen opened it, his entire expression changed because the pages were filled with detailed building designs and community spaces and park concepts that showed real talent. Jade, these are incredible. You have an eye for functional beauty that most of my junior architects don't have. And Jade shook her head. That was 13 years ago when I had a full ride to UNC. I'm a waitress now, not an architect. That dream died when I got pregnant senior year. Owen looked at her for a long minute, then said something that changed everything. What if you could be both? My firm is expanding, and I need someone to manage community outreach projects. You'd learn the business side and work on real designs. 55,000 starting salary with benefits and flexible hours for Sky. Jade's immediate reaction was anger. I can't accept charity from you just because you feel bad about what Vanessa did. But Owen cut her off. It's not charity. It's recognizing talent that's been buried under years of survival mode. Vanessa took this dream from you in high school through bullying and making you feel worthless. I won't let her win by you staying stuck. That same week, Vanessa's husband, Brett, got an anonymous email with photos of her having drinks with a man who definitely wasn't him. And when he confronted her, she tried to lie, but he'd already called Owen, who told him everything about the podcast prank and the restaurant scene. You tried to humiliate someone for content? The woman Owen's dating? Brett's voice was disgusted in a way Vanessa had never heard. And within 3 days, he'd filed for divorce, and Vanessa's perfect life was imploding in spectacular fashion. 2 months passed, and Jade was thriving at Owen's architecture firm, actually contributing to real projects, seeing her designs being used in proposals. And Tyler and Sky were basically inseparable, asking constantly when they could be real siblings. Owen and Jade were taking things slow but falling hard. And one night after the kids were asleep, Jade whispered, "What if this is too good to be true? What if it all falls apart?" "What if it doesn't?" Owen said back. "What if this is just what happens when two people who've been surviving alone finally find someone worth living for?" But Vanessa wasn't done yet. Showed up at Jade's apartment 3 months after the restaurant incident, looking rough in a way her Instagram followers would never believe. "You took everything from me, my marriage, my career, my entire life." And her voice was shaking with rage. But Jade just looked at her calmly. "I didn't take anything. You destroyed yourself with your own cruelty. I was just the person you tried to break, who refused to stay broken." Vanessa was crying now. "You were nothing in high school. You're nothing now. You're just a waitress who got lucky." And Owen appeared from the parking lot where he'd been waiting to pick up Jade. "She's an architect at my firm, a mother, a genuinely good person. That's everything you'll never be, no matter how many followers you buy." Vanessa broke down completely. "I was supposed to win. I was supposed to be successful and happy, and you were supposed to stay miserable forever." And Jade felt something that surprised her. Actual pity. "I hope you find peace, Vanessa. I really do. But you're not going to find it by tearing other people down." 3 weeks later, Owen took Jade back to the Meridian for their 3-month anniversary, same table where they'd met, and the restaurant manager saw them and immediately comped their meal. "You're the couple who put that awful woman in her place. What you did was the bravest thing I've ever seen." And Jade shook her head. "I didn't do anything brave. I just showed up." But the manager smiled. "That's exactly what made it brave. You showed up even though you were terrified. That's courage." After dinner in the parking lot, Owen pulled Jade close and said the words that had been building for months. "I'm falling in love with you. I know it's fast, but I need you to know." And Jade kissed him with tears streaming down her face. "I fell in love with you the moment you stood up for me. I was just too scared to believe I deserved it." 6 months flew by in this beautiful blur of family dinners and bedtime stories, and slowly building something real. And Jade and Sky moved into Owen's house, where Tyler immediately insisted the kids share a room, even though there were 3 empty bedrooms, because he said, "We've been apart our whole lives. I don't want to be alone anymore." Jade was now assistant project manager at Fletcher and Associates, working on actual architecture projects. And her first solo design for a community center had just been approved for construction, which felt like a dream she'd stopped letting herself have 13 years ago. Tyler had started calling Jade Miss Jade, but every once in a while he'd slip and say Mom. And Sky called Owen Mr. Owen, but drew pictures for school labeled My Family, with all 4 of them holding hands. And Owen knew it was time to make this official. He planned the proposal for the community center groundbreaking. Jade's design finally becoming real, and she was giving a speech to about 200 people about second chances and how communities are built when people choose kindness over cruelty. Owen took the microphone when she finished, and his voice was shaking. Speaking of second chances, Jade Morrison, you were supposed to be humiliated 9 months ago at a restaurant. Instead, you changed my entire life. He got down on one knee right there in front of the construction site and news cameras and everyone who mattered. Will you marry me? Will you let Tyler and me be your family officially? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving you deserve every good thing? Jade was ugly crying and nodding so hard she couldn't speak, and Tyler and Sky came running from the crowd where they'd been waiting. Does this mean we're going to be real brother and sister now? And both parents were laughing through tears saying, you already are. This just makes it official on paper. Meanwhile, across town, Vanessa was working a retail job at a department store, barely making rent on a studio apartment. And she saw Jade and Owen's engagement announcement in the Charlotte Observer, with a photo of all four of them smiling at the groundbreaking. Her first instinct was bitter rage, but then something shifted after 2 years of therapy and actually working on herself. And she sat down and wrote a letter she'd been avoiding for months. I don't expect forgiveness and I don't deserve it, but I need you to know I'm grateful you didn't let my cruelty define you. You deserved every good thing that happened. I'm sorry I couldn't see that 20 years ago. 3 months later, Owen and Jade got married in the simplest ceremony possible. Courthouse paperwork, then backyard party with just family and close friends. And when it came time for vows, Jade's voice broke, saying, you protected me before you knew me. Loved me when I couldn't love myself. Showed Sky what a good man looks like, so she'll never settle for less. Owen's vows made everyone cry. You taught me that kindness wins every single time, that second chances are real, that the worst moments can redirect us toward our purpose if we're brave enough to show up anyway. Tyler and Sky insisted on doing their own vows, and Tyler's little 7-year-old voice saying, I promise to share my dad and be your brother forever. And Sky responding, I promise to share my mom and always be your best friend, absolutely destroyed every single person there. 2 years after that, the community center officially opened, serving 500 families with programs and resources and spaces Jade had designed, and local news showed up to interview her about the journey from waitress to architect. Tell us how you went from serving tables to designing buildings, the reporter asked. And Jade took a breath before telling the whole story without naming Vanessa, just saying, a cruel joke became the catalyst for my dream. Sometimes our worst moments redirect us if we let them. The interview went massively viral, 10 million views in 3 days, comments flooding in saying, this is what real resilience looks like, and proof that kindness always wins in the end. And somehow it felt like the universe was saying, yeah, you chose right. Vanessa saw the video in her small apartment after 2 years of genuine therapy and hard work on herself, watched Jade's grace in not naming her publicly even though she could have, and finally sent the letter she'd rewritten 40 times. Jade read it sitting at her kitchen table with Owen reading over her shoulder, and when she finished, she was crying. She's apologizing, actually apologizing. I don't know what to do with this. You don't have to do anything, Owen said carefully. You don't owe her forgiveness just because she finally feels guilty. But Jade shook her head. I'm not doing it for her. I'm doing it for me, to close that chapter completely. She wrote back one sentence. I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. I hope you find yours. And 2 weeks later, they met for coffee in a neutral cafe where Vanessa looked smaller and more real than Jade had ever seen her. You have a beautiful family. You always deserve that, Vanessa said, and her voice was genuine in a way it never had been in high school. And Jade responded, so do you. I really hope you find it. And they parted as two women who'd survived their past, not friends but no longer enemies. Years passed and Tyler hit 13 while Sky turned 12, both thriving and happy and well-adjusted in ways that made Owen and Jade grateful every single day. At family dinner one night, Sky mentioned a girl at school was being really mean to another girl today for wearing cheaper clothes, and Jade asked carefully, what did you do, baby? And Sky said, like it was obvious, I stood up for her, like Dad stood up for you. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Owen and Jade exchanged looks across the table, both crying because their kids got it, actually understood that protecting people who can't protect themselves is what matters most. Every single December 16th, they went back to the Meridian as a family tradition. Same table the restaurant held for them every year. And the kids loved hearing the story of the night Dad saved Mom from the mean ladies. This year, Tyler was rolling his eyes. We've heard this story a million times. But Sky leaned forward. Tell it again. I like the part where Dad stands up and everyone goes quiet. Owen smiled. I didn't save her. She saved herself by having the courage to show up even when she was terrified. And Jade added, we saved each other. That's how the best love stories work. That night after the kids were asleep, Owen and Jade looked at their photo wall, showing the entire journey. Jade in her waitress uniform next to her, in a hard hat at the community center construction site. Owen alone with baby Tyler next to their blended family of four at the wedding, the viral interview screenshot beside candid photos of their life. Do you ever think about that night? What would have happened if the app hadn't glitched? If I hadn't shown up? Owen asked, and Jade kissed him softly. Every single day. And I'm grateful for random technology failures and cruel people who accidentally brought us together and cosmic timing that knew better than we did. I'm grateful you had the courage to show up even when you thought you might get hurt, Owen said, pulling her closer, and Jade whispered against his shoulder. I'm grateful you saw me when everyone else just saw a waitress they could humiliate for content. They stood there in the glow of Christmas lights with their kids sleeping safely down the hall, and a life they'd built from the ashes of other people's cruelty. And it felt like winning in the way that actually matters. Not revenge or money or fame, but just peace and family and knowing you chose kindness when it would have been easier to choose bitterness. They set up the poor waitress on a blind date as a cruel joke, planned her public humiliation down to the minute, filmed it for content and laughed while they did it. But what they didn't plan for was Owen Fletcher, who'd been humiliated by the same woman 10 years before and said, not on my watch. What the single dad did wasn't just protect a stranger, he gave Jade back her dream and her dignity and her future. And what left them frozen wasn't the threat or exposure. It was watching kindness actually win while their cruelty destroyed them from the inside out. If you've ever been someone's punchline, if you've ever felt worthless or invisible, if you've wondered if good people still exist, this is your answer. Sometimes the worst thing that almost happens becomes the best thing that does. Hit subscribe if this reminded you that showing up even when you're scared is the bravest thing you can do, that one person standing up can change everything, and that sometimes the universe sets you up for something way better than you could have planned. Thanks for being here with us.